Okay, that's for the second part of Bertha Bertha's story. I'm reading out of Torch Still Burning Brightly, and this story is my wife's story. And I had to cut it off from the other video, and I'm picking it up on this with this story. Okay. We stopped at, she said, bless her heart, she looked deeply into my eyes and took my hand and said, darling, the doctor will be with you shortly. Time seemed to stand still as I sat there staring at that plastic sculpture. Finally, Dr. Matthews came in and introduced herself to me. Her voice was soft and soothing, and I immediately felt at ease. Our conversation progressed, and I again asked the question, what's wrong with me? She looked puzzled and said, test results indicate a large mass on your right ovary and quite possibly ovarian cancer. I was stunned. I didn't hear another thing she had to say. At some point, I was scheduled for a biopsy. As I made my way out of the patient area and back to the waiting room, I could see Decop listening to her iPod. I tapped her on her shoulder and simply said, let's go. She asked what the doctor had said, and my reply was that we'll talk about it when we get home. I asked if she was hungry. I decided we'd go to our favorite restaurant for Mexican food and a multitude of Long Island iced teas. My favorite. All the while, I was contemplating just how I would tell everyone what was going on. Telling my family and friends. Once home, I sat and told Decop what the deal was. Cancer. Decop, a little shorty who's cute as a button and the type of person who internalizes everything, was now staring at me in total dismay and asked, what do you mean, cancer? My only reply to her was, yeah. We sat down on the couch and just shook our heads. I've been shot at, mugged, knifed, ran over, struck by lightning, and survived an airplane crash and 2 tours in Kuwait during Operation Desert Storm. And now this. What the hell? Now it was time to tell the family. I began by calling my youngest sister. Now, Beatrice is the smooth, sophisticated type who's damn good looking and smart as a whip. I knew that I would have a lot of explaining to do when it came to her, so I just wanted to get this over with. Sure enough, she began with, what type of cancer? What are they going to do? Chemo, radiation, what? There's one good thing about having a younger sister. You know that she's going to have everyone's phone number on speed dial. By the next afternoon, the posse was rolling in from Houston and San Antonio. I could barely get the door open as they burst in and began asking, "What are you going to do? Is your will in order? What about power of attorney? How about a simple hello?" These people were a trip. I was still trying to wrap my mind around what was going on with me. So the commotion was a bit too much to handle. As I stood there stunned, my older sister decided that I wasn't of sound mind and they should handle everything for me. I immediately let them know that my mental state was just fine. Everyone had instantly become an authority on cancer as well as my life. This was becoming a very stressful situation in a very short time. By day 3, I had enough of them, and they realized it. Offended and unable to understand that I had to come to terms with what was going on, they packed up and departed, all except for Beatrice, who planned to stay for the biopsy scheduled for later that week. In private, Beatrice asked me why I didn't want my family around. I had to explain to her in great detail that it wasn't that I didn't want them there, but that I needed time for all of this to soak in. Furthermore, furthermore, I was and still am very independent and used to handling things my way. She looked at me and said, "Well, you're not in this alone. You're not alone in this." We prayed together and asked for strength and healing. Tuesday arrived right on time, and the three of us jigged, uh, zigged off to Baylor. She making up words. Zigged. Okay. Beatrice drove with that Houston type of vengeance. Lisa rode shotgun, and I hung on for dear life in the back seat of the GMC. Our arrival and check-in went well. I dressed in that nasty little gown and awaited transport. I was so hungry. I rolled up and down the hallways only to be parked in line with other unfortunate patients. After about 15 minutes, it was my turn. What did I expect? Here I was on the table being prepped with this guy sticking needles into my stomach to numb the area. Well, I have to tell you, they didn't use enough of that numbing stuff because I came right off that table when they began to stroke up and down with that sample collector. My eyes were nailed to the ceilings, and I was visibly going into shock. And I forgot to tell you, she had a sense of humor. Um, my yeah, I was visibly going into shock. I was cold. I was ice cold with sweat pouring off my body. I recall being restrained as they drew the last sample. The doctor attempted to explain what was to happen next. However, I really didn't care. I just wanted to get the hell out of there. When returned to my room, I found myself alone. My sister and Decop had gone out in search for food since none of us had eaten. Alone, my thoughts were of how lonely and sad this place was. Hours passed before I was informed of the results of the biopsy, which indicated malignant cells. We all just dropped our heads. At some point, a CT scan was conducted, and I was scheduled to meet Dr. Matthews. My stomach was swollen, and I had dropped approximately 80 pounds within the past 6 months. I entered the exam room where the sounds of Yanni offered a smooth serenade, and my doctor drank herbal tea. This meeting with Dr. Matthews was more informative, and we discussed a plan of action. I was in stage 4, meaning the cancer had spread to other organs. I was to immediately begin chemotherapy and no radiation. The tumor was massive with a CA-125 off the scale. I then asked about the life expectancy of an individual in stage 4. Her response was that normally ovarian cancer, if caught in the early stages, has an average lifespan of about 5 to 7 years. Since my cancer was so advanced and aggressive, the odds of 5 years were slim, and in reality, it would be best to take life day to day. I staggered out of the waiting room and discussed the conversation with Beatrice and Decop. By now, they both knew not to ask me too many questions. My thought pattern was only to grasp the information given to me at hand and keep it simple. I had absolutely no intentions of dying before getting that first Social Security check at the age of 65. That's B. My sister remained with me for another week before returning to Houston. Decop remains to be my guardian. Chemotherapy. I have never been able to tolerate needles, and now I was in a living hell with 6 hours of chemotherapy and blood tests every week. This went on from April to June, and the chemo wasn't working. We tried another drug. Now every Monday it was blood work and chemo. This one's not working either. Now I looked like a 5'7" naked chicken. My stomach was hyperextended and filled with fluid to the size of a pregnant woman carrying triplets, and my hips looked like 2 pieces of bologna flapping in the wind. My teeth appeared to be larger than my head. I slept most of the day and prayed for the remainder. I suffered severe constipation in the beginning and finally was able to experience relief only after taking every known laxative. My God, this is insane. One day, as I stood in the shower, unable to see my feet because of the swollen belly, I cried out that I wasn't going out like this. I asked God to free me from this disease, and I chose life. Family and friends continued to rally around me, being as supportive as one could imagine. Daily, I received calls and cards from my sisters and co-workers. When I was hungry, the doorbell would always ring, and there would be someone just on the other side of it bearing food. And that was because Decop can't cook. Okay. When my spirits was at their lowest, I would receive prayer in forms of letters and emails from friends and strangers. When my yard needed attending, the young boy from down the street whom I had mentored would cut it. When I looked like hell, the girls and I would do lunch, and they always built up my spirits. Lastly, as I endured hours of chemo, the cop was by my side making sure all was good. It was now September 2007, and none of the drugs were working. The CA 125 wouldn't drop, and finally hopes of a trial drug were offered. I was taken off chemotherapy prior to entering the trial drug program, so I decided a road trip was in order. Since I was deemed terminally ill, then I would go out in style. I began by having 6 liters of fluid drawn off my stomach so I could move around a little better. We purchased we purchased our dream car, which was a Jaguar XJ8. Bought a Rhode Atlas, withdrew $5,000 out of the bank, bought 2 bottles of whiskey, 2 6-packs of Diet Coke, and headed on our way to points unknown. Of course, the cop wasn't going to let me drive alone, so she became my road dog. We traveled to Oklahoma and experienced their centennial celebration, gambled on the penny slots, and floated through Brooktown. Next, we traveled throughout the Texas Hill Country, ate rattlesnakes chili, and listened to some very bad country music. She don't like country music. I like country music. There we rented a small shack of a cabin for a week and enjoyed all LBJ's country had to offer. The cop was a bit afraid when I said we were going to live in a shack for a week out on the prairie. This poor girl had never experienced scenery without street lights or heard the call of the wild in the night. It was great. Each morning I would make my way out to the porch with a cup of coffee and watch the wildlife begin their day. The peace was overwhelming. I would meditate and pray each day until a calm overtook me. One morning, I decided that God allowed me to make it through this. Then I would build a cabin and offer it to people afflicted with cancer or those who just needed that calm. We ended our road trip by cruising up Highway 281, returning to Dallas. Since being off treatment, I found myself stronger with an increased appetite. Man, I love bacon. I began a simple exercise program in which I would walk from my corner to the end of the block. I know that doesn't sound like much, but for someone who couldn't walk from the bathroom to the front door is in under 20 minutes, it's considered remarkable. While on my walk, late one evening, I was contacted by a representative from Baylor's Research Center, where the trial drug program was being performed. The young man began asking me how I had been feeling. My response was absolutely great. He then stated, "That's good. Now, Miss Bertha, I have to tell you that you are no longer a candidate for the trial drug program." My heart sank, and the strength in my legs gave way. It was all I could do to grab a hold of a mailbox and steady myself. He went on to say that my cancer had stabilized with no indication of new growth. My response was, "Okay, what's next?" He said quite pleasantly that I would be hearing from my doctor soon. Within minutes, Dr. Matthew called, and I was still clenching the mailbox. She immediately asked me what I had been doing. My response was praying. Again, she asked what exactly I had been doing. Again, I responded with praying. Needless to say, I was in her office shortly after the conversation. I again entered chemotherapy, and this drug had an effect on the cancer. Every Monday, I went for treatment and continued on with my week. I began to make plans no longer from day to day, but now week to week. From October 2007 till September 2008, my CA-125 continuously declined. I returned to work at the amazement of family coworkers and doctors with a mission on my mind. That promise I had made to God was weighing on me with an indescribable sense of urgency to step into action. The ugly couch cabin. I began searching. We began searching for a property within a 100-mile radius of Dallas, armed only with the premonition conveyed to me by my sister. I began searching in East Texas for cabins. Within 1 week, I had found and made an offer on a funky little cabin with a nasty wooden couch placed on his front porch. Actually, she said on the front porch. It actually was in the house. It was a terrible looking couch. It was checkerboard green and white. It was on the inside of the house. And once I seen it, I was like, this thing is ugly. And I said, okay, we're going to put this on the front porch. And we started calling the cabin, the name that we gave it was the Ugly Couch Cabin, because that ugly couch sat on that, on our front porch. And we didn't throw it away because it had the name of our cabin, the Ugly Couch Cabin. And so we kept it. Okay. The realtor, an ex-used car saleswoman, was more than happy to assist me. We met at the cabin and spoke for hours. This would be her first sale. While we were in conversation, she noticed the small teal ribbon on the collar of my blouse and asked what type of cancer it represented. My reply was ovarian. She then asked if I was a survivor, and I stated yes. She went on to tell me about her experience with breast cancer and spiritually how she had changed. We prayed at the entrance of the cabin that I would be successful in purchasing it and that we both be completely healed by God. The transaction to purchase the cabin went well until the day of the home inspection. I decided that it would be in my best interest to be on hand for the inspection, and so did my realtor. We met at the cabin and chatted for a while when we noticed another car pull into the drive. We both expected it to be the home inspector, but it turned out to be the home owner. We exchanged greetings. Then I noticed the pink ribbon on her bumper. I asked if she was a survivor, and her response was yes. We all looked at one another and began to exchange stories. By the end of the afternoon, we had laughed, cried, and broken bread. I told her that the cabin was intended for rehabilitation and would be offered free to cancer patients. So then she told me that she had initially purchased the cabin to have a place to die from cancer. I closed on the property in mid-August 2008, and from that date until December 2008, I have worked endlessly on refurbishing it. It wasn't until I drove by a lonely billboard located west of Canton, Texas, on Highway 20, that states, "Jesus said, it is finished," that I knew and that I knew that my mission was complete. My CA-125 was on the rise once again, and I've been placed on another waiting list for a new trial drug program. I've made the decision to retire from my job that I love so much, which was a government job. She was a aviation inspector, and she did love her job. Let's see. Okay. We decided to make the most of her remaining time. I have come to realize several things. God has a sense of humor. She always said that. You will get out of life what you put into it. We all have a mission. Our lives are to be enjoyed and never stop believing in miracles. So if you're ever traveling down Highway 35, I think it's, no. If you're ever traveling down Highway 20 and are in need of a quiet place to rest, just look for the Ugly Couch Cabin. It's the one with the big silver gates. And that's our cabin, the Ugly Couch Cabin. But it was a beautiful place. Absolutely gorgeous. And all that credit is due to B. She does carpentry. She can build anything. Basically, she can do anything. There's not anything that she cannot do. And that's a promise. So, that is the end of the story. And she's going to pass the torch to Lisa Rapp. But we're going to stop there. And Lisa Rapp is still alive. She's still here. She haven't passed since the last time I knew. I want to thank y'all very much, very, very, very much for patience and listening to the stories of these women. And I hope that y'all get something out of it more than just being bored, listening to me read. I definitely appreciate it because it's something that is special for me to do because it was what my wife passed away from ovarian cancer. And we were before she passed away, and I did it while she was sick, and now I chose to something just had me to realize I still wanted to spread the information about ovarian cancer, the symptoms, the how women can be misdiagnosed, and that could determine life and death for them, as it did my wife. She was sick. She was 6 months misdiagnosed for 6 months, and she ended up with stage 4 ovarian cancer, and it took her life. So I just, want to be able to spread the knowledge, and as we know, knowledge is power. And to be able to let women know that there are 2 tests that can be taken. CA-125 is for ovarian cancer. That's the blood test. It's the blood test that will enable doctors to determine whether you have ovarian cancer or not. The BRCA, which is BRCA, which is a gene. That blood test will be able to tell you if you have that gene, if you carry that gene. If you carry that gene, more than likely, one of or both, if you have girls, they could possibly carry that gene also for the breast cancer, BRCA. So hopefully y'all remember those 2 tests. Both of them are blood tests, and remember that Pap smears will not enable the doctor to tell you if you have ovarian cancer or not. Pap smears, no, absolutely not. And as it said before, you would, women think that Pap smears enable the doctor to say, oh, you have ovarian cancer. It's not true. You have to ask. In another story was it explained that the CA-125 should be given at your annual physical examination along with your mammogram, but it's not. You have to ask for that blood test to be given to you to find out if you have ovarian cancer or not. So I hope y'all would remember the bullet, the important things like the CA-125, the BRCA, that Pap smears does not enable the doctor to tell you if you have ovarian cancer or not. You have to take those 2 blood tests to be able to do that. And remember that their doctors do not give you those blood tests um, with your annual physical or your mammogram. You have to ask them and sometimes force them to give you those tests. If for whatever reason, if you just want to take it, or if you have some of the symptoms um, of, and then remember those symptoms, okay, with the gas, indigestion, acid reflux, what else was it? The stomach pain, bloating, those symptoms. Okay, so I appreciate y'all very much for your support. I appreciate if you thumbs up these videos that I'm doing the book reading for the two books, Torch and Still Burning Brightly. It's definitely it's something I'm that I want to do, and I wanted to do, and I started doing. Don't seem like I get enough women that care enough to come to the live readings or catch the replays. Sometimes I rather do them like I'm doing now, pre-recorded and put them out, because I don't get that much interest, you know, when I do the readings. So, but for all those that are my Decop squad and my subscribers, my visitors that see the title and come and listen to the book readings, ask questions. We do, I do Q&A for anyone that have questions about anything. And my potential subscribers, I appreciate y'all. My bush watchers, my cloud watchers, I appreciate y'all. I know y'all out there, and I know y'all. And I appreciate even you watching from the bush, or you watch from the cloud. But I just want to let you know I appreciate it. And for my Decop squad, my moderators, my subscribers, I appreciate you. And I'm going to say good night. Well, I guess I better say good morning, because it looks like it's 5:08. So I have been up doing these videos since about 9. 9 or 10. So I guess I'll be sleeping all day tomorrow or late. I don't know. But I appreciate y'all. I'm not gonna ramble, but I appreciate you. And I will see y'all next video.